Alright, time to talk about Big Brother 24. Not that a whole lot has really changed in the Big Brother house, so I'm going to talk about all of the different messes going on. First, two of the biggest messes as players, Brittany and Monty. I'll be talking about them. And then I'm going to talk about just these messy dynamics altogether. Some people think it's a gender war. I think it's a little more complicated than that. And then lastly, we will talk about production's mess, as we could possibly be without feeds for 3.5 to 4 days because of the schedule changes. Not the show's fault, but the show can use momentum, and they have none of it. And I think this just hurts it even more. But let's start with Monty. I want to really break down Monty's game after 2 weeks to really talk about his abysmal brain. This guy's abysmal brain is a struggle. Yeah, Monty, let's recap. So Taylor goes to Monty and tips him off and says the girls might be planning against the guys. Monty, however, was one of the many who trusted Paloma, the youngest person in the house, and let the youngest person in the house run their games because they're a weak-ass cast. And Monty has been throwing Taylor's name under the bus ever since. But this week, Monty sees that Pooch is on the block, and there's this big plan to get Pooch out because Pooch volunteered himself on the block as a pawn, like the dumbass that he is. And now Monty's big conspiracy theory is that the women are working together to get out the men. But wait, Monty, Taylor just told you this last week, and you've been throwing her under the bus ever since. And now you're still trying your darndest to get Taylor out this week. Yesterday, Monty tried all day to change this vote in Taylor's direction. Fell short. Amira and Nicole are not having it. It's basically set in stone, and Monty does not have Michael and Daniel, especially since Daniel found out that there is a guys' alliance and he wasn't included. Yes, Daniel, the first HOH, finally learns that during his HOH week, these alliances were forming without him because he sucked and had no backbone. So Monty's quest to change the tide to get Taylor out and keep Pooch failed, but I think it really just shows Monty's abysmal brain that this whole time Taylor was trying to help him out by tipping him off. Only for a week later, Monty's conspiracy theory is that the girls are working together to take out the guys, which is what Taylor tipped him off on the first place, and then Monty goes around and helps cause this clusterfuck for Taylor. Monty, the worst person you want to try and work with in this game, because he sucks at everything. And another player teetering on sucking it out everything and maybe doesn't need to be in alliances is Brittany. Brittany, I've been talking about basically this whole time how she talks too damn much. And we've been seeing it more and more. She is also one that tried to tip off Joe, but Joe's in La La Land most of this time, trying to tell Joe that the tide might be turning against Pooch. Joe and Pooch, kind of close. Some of the guys are kind of close to Pooch, Joe being one of them. Now, I could understand initially why Brittany was doing this, because in Brittany's mind, she is doing this to that when Pooch goes home, maybe she can be close to Joseph. So at least there is some strategy here, unlike Monty, who just sucks at everything. But Brittany is actually trying to make this connection with Joseph and say, hey, I tipped you off and I could work with you in the future. But Brittany is trying to play everybody. She's trying to be Sarah Beth last season, who also is very overrated. Now, I know you all on social media love to overrate Sarah Beth's game, and even last season while it was happening, you were overrating the shit out of Sarah Beth's game, who was trying to play this rat game. But Brittany's very similar, except Brittany talks even more than Sarah Beth. Everybody has already caught on to Brittany playing this game, trying to play all sides, and it's week 2. You would think Brittany would have learned her lesson when she went to Pooch and that information got back to Amira. But she keeps doing this kind of play, and it's too much, too soon on her social game, and that has grown her target over these past few days because everybody already realizes she talks too much. And so there was this alliance kind of forming between Michael and Kyle and Brittany called the Outsiders. The Outsiders, they are no Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, but they see themselves as the outsiders to the core. Basically, the house is like one big alliance right now. And I guess they see the core being people like Jasmine and Amira, maybe Nicole, which we could kind of see that. Like, a lot of you are talking about how this is gender wars, and I will say the girls, for as much as they talk shit about all the other women in the house, they are better than past players at sticking to their guns at trying to get a guy out of this house. But there's so many interconnections that it's way more complicated than guys versus girls right now. Even though Monty has been trying to rally the guys this week to take on the girls, Michael and Daniel ain't on board. They're more connected to the girls. And then the girls' alliance also has Alyssa. Alyssa is going to be the grenade that takes down the women's alliance because of her obsession with Kyle. Kyle, who rejected her. But then Amira goes and tells Alyssa some of the stuff Kyle said, which was mostly true, that Kyle's afraid to be close to Alyssa because it would put a target on their backs. And he was kind of thinking maybe during the jury phase they can get closer. And I guess that gave Alyssa all the hope in the world, and now she's acting like Kyle is her number one. And she gives Kyle information like I talked about in one of my last videos, but Kyle doesn't give her a whole lot of information back. So Alyssa is that typical woman Big Brother player that takes down some of the girls with her because she's way too close to a guy. And in this case, it's not even a showmance, so Alyssa just comes across as pathetic. So, as much as Amira and Nicole, Jasmine want to keep feeding Alyssa information, Alyssa was almost on board to turn the votes with Monty last night, but Amira shut that down, and she shut it down in front of Alyssa, so Alyssa couldn't really stay on track to join Monty and the idea of getting Taylor out over Pooch. And the only reason that Alyssa was considering flipping with Monty's little group of guys is because Taylor had said that Kyle isn't going to make the merge if she has anything to do with it. But Kyle's already on board to vote Pooch out instead of Taylor, and Kyle's make that alliance with Michael and Brittany, and they've talked about bringing in Taylor, seeing how this week goes, bringing in Taylor as another outsider, because Taylor is clearly an outsider. So Alyssa isn't even in that little alliance with Kyle, so she's dumb. Alyssa's just dumb. As for Taylor's social game, Taylor did have a good talk with Monty today, and her little crush on Daniel and the little bit of flirting with Daniel has helped her game immensely. Daniel has certainly had a change of heart after doing nothing but talk shit about Taylor this whole time, although this group, similar to BB24, and that's why the ratings are as terrible, is because they are the kind of group that wants to villainize the targets in the house. They've done it to Taylor. They're doing it to Pooch. They've even started doing it to Brittany and Indy because they could be targets sooner rather than later. So, yeah, this is one of those terrible groups that want to be one big alliance and have to ostracize everybody to make themselves feel better, even though this is supposed to be a game. And if you're going after people for game reasons, that's fine. But you don't have to make up all these things about these people to make them seem like they're doing bad shit or like they're terrible people to make yourselves feel better, when in fact that kind of just makes you the terrible people, and they don't seem to grasp this concept. Even though people like Amira do grasp it, and yet she plays this mean girl role anyway. So, yeah, the cast still sucks. But I do think overall the whole gender dynamics are a lot more complicated because we have all these interconnected alliances in between already. We even have that little alliance with Nicole, Amira, Alyssa, Kyle, Monty, Michael, who I think is still the main alliance other than the girls, in my opinion. The girls' alliance consisting of every girl except Taylor, even though they've kind of brought Taylor in on that. Taylor, Brittany, and Indy are clearly on the bottom of that. A girl group of 7, though. But lastly, let's talk about the schedule. So originally they had to change the live eviction from Thursday to Friday because of the hearings going on television. But then they changed it again to be a 2-hour episode on Sunday, even though today the CBS account tweeted that the episode was Friday. So CBS can't even get it together to what it means. But last season, there was a lot of shit talking the ratings because of the cookout. People didn't like the cookout. And yet the ratings were down. The ratings have been down every season since BB20. So, yeah, but BB21 and this season are the only seasons to lose ratings massively year to year. The ratings are a disaster this season. They are about to fall under 3 million viewers if they don't get it together. And I feel like this might be some sort of ploy if they really do turn off the feeds for 3.5 days in hopes that people will watch Sunday's episode and save the ratings. It's giving desperation. But I genuinely just think this season is karma. This season is for Big Brother. All of the bad decisions this show has made over the past decade coming back to truly bite them in the ass. Never really dealing with the racist problems this show had until last year, even though it's had these problems for a decade, has caught up to the show. All of the bad decisions from production to want only showmances, to not really focus on gameplay, to give them Big Brother 16 when they're in sequester to watch and want to form these big alliances. I still contend that big alliances only work in Big Brother because not enough players want to play their own game. It's a bunch of sheep, a bunch of follow the leader. Yeah, an alliance of 7 works if there's a bunch of follow the leader going on. But if there's more pushback, that creates cracks faster. But these kind of people that they cast to be sheep don't do that. Even down to the confessionals being so scripted. We see in Survivor, and I do think they're scripted confessionals in Survivor as well, although not nearly as much. But in Survivor, their confessionals usually give you more of the character. It forms the character even more, where in Big Brother, everybody's scripted, saying these cheesy lines for the most part, except for a few people who you can tell are more natural. Everything is too overly produced, but also produced down to the things that nobody really wants to watch. And now they want to turn feeds off for up to 4 days, possibly, and piss off their true core audience. I have never, other than the WWE, I have never seen a show treat their audience this poorly and turn off their entire audience like this. And that's why the ratings are collapsing. So, as for me, I hope their fees are off for 4 days. I can use a break. I can focus on Love Island, and I can go out this weekend and get drunk. And I don't even have to care about what's going on the feeds because they'll be off. So, I'm all for it happening. I'm just saying, you're going to piss off the core audience. I'm not the core audience of Big Brother. Sorry, I'm a Survivor guy. But they're going to piss off their core audience if they turn off the feeds for 4 days. We're going to miss the new twist. We're going to miss who the new HOH is. We're going to miss what leads up to nominations. We're going to miss what leads up to the veto if they have the feeds off this long. So we'll see. If the feeds are off, this is probably going to be my last video until next Monday or Tuesday, because the feeds will be off all weekend long.